What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about another book/movie comparison. I've done a few of these this year, and I've had a really fun time doing this because I feel like it's really interesting whenever a book is adapted into a film. Because I think I said this in a previous video, but I find it so interesting when people have the framework of a novel or a short story or something to work with, and a lot of times the film strays so far away from the original source material, and whether that be a creative decision like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining to take it in a little bit of a different direction, or if it's just a complete and total flop as far as poor interpretation of the material, it's always really interesting to me to see how these things translate. And today's video is going to be a reverse example. I actually saw this film when it was first released, when it came out on Netflix, I believe in 2017. This film got positive reviews from critics, but a lot of negative reviews from audience members. And when I watched this the first time, I really enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was really well made. I thought it was atmospheric, and it's been a while since I've seen it. So this year I actually read I think they consider it a short story, but it was independently published after the film was released. But Stephen King wrote the story that this film is based on, and the movie and book I'll be discussing today is 1922. 1922 is written by Stephen King and directed by Zak Hilditch. A simple yet proud rancher conspires to murder his wife for financial gain, convincing his teenage son to participate. So when I initially watched this movie, I really enjoyed it the year that it came out. And so it'd been a while since I'd seen this, and I just read the book recently, but I really enjoyed the book, the short story or whatever you want to call it, and I still really enjoyed the film. I would honestly say this is one of the more faithful adaptations of Stephen King's material that I've seen. There's little liberties taken, and there's some things that are chopped out of the story, I think, to kind of streamline it a little bit. I don't think it takes away from the story whatsoever. I think the book and the film are both equally impactful, but I'll talk about that a little bit more when I break down both the book and the movie. The story centers around Wilfred James, who in the film is played by Thomas Jane, and he lives on a farm with his wife and his son, and he loves working on a farm. It's the year 1922. He is a country boy through and through. He loves being out there, and his son, Henry, or as he likes to be called, Hank, also loves that lifestyle. They both enjoy being out there, taking care of animals, working on the farm. And his wife, Arlette, is the complete opposite. She wants that city life. She wants to move into the city and eventually open a dress shop. And the two of them constantly get into arguments together about moving out of the country. Well, she is inheriting this 100 acres of land that Wilf wants to add on to their property to make their farm larger. And she is insistent on selling it. And so the entire premise of the book and the film is Wilf eventually convinces his son Hank to murder his wife, because otherwise their life is going to be drastically changed. Everything that they know is going to be different. And because Hank is so rooted in that lifestyle, he reluctantly agrees. After the murder is committed, the entire story is the ramifications of the actions that the two of them have taken together. And the film and the book both are this slow buildup of atmosphere and dread into an insane third act climax that I really appreciate a lot. So as I said, the book and the film pretty much go hand in hand. The only liberties that the film really takes, there's a subplot where Hank dates this girl who lives on a neighboring farm. And in the plot, he ends up getting her pregnant. The family ends up sending her to this girl's home where she's going to have the baby, give the baby up for adoption, and then come back to live with the family. And there's a whole plot in the book of Hank kind of going there, watching out after the place, becoming friends with one of the girls that's there to get close to her to try to break her out. And that's relatively streamlined in the film. It's just kind of alluded to. You don't get those set of scenes. And I don't think for the film's sake that you necessarily need that. But aside from some little differences, some jobs that Wilf takes on, because at the beginning of the book and the film, Wilf is addressing you. He's in this hotel room writing this letter essentially saying, I killed my wife, this is my confession, and here's what led up to me doing that. And so we're getting his retelling of the events and what brought him to this moment. And I think that works really well because sometimes when you're told what is going to happen, it'll take away from that punch, but knowing that didn't detract from the insane atmosphere that both the film and the book have. And I think that the atmosphere and that sense of dread is so fantastically well built throughout the book and the movie. What I will say that's interesting about both, in the book, other than their son, both characters are portrayed as very unlikable. Wilf, even very early on in the book, you can tell is racist. I mean, like, it's very openly conveyed. He drops slurs at the beginning of the book. He's just kind of mean-spirited and set in his ways, and so he's not a likable character. And in this, it doesn't go in that direction in the film, but he is very set in his ways, and he's unwavering in what he wants in his life. And his wife in the book, I feel like, is portrayed much meaner than she is in the film. She just kind of wants something for her life in the movie, and she does give some snide remarks back and forth, but I feel like it's because there's something that she really wants with her life, and the two of them are butting heads. And it's really interesting because I feel like the emotional payoff of both the book and the movie are relatively equal in my eyes, because it's interesting to see the slow decline of this character who isn't the most likable person, because after the act is committed, both father and son are haunted sort of by the spirit and the essence of the wife. I do feel like the book gets even more grotesque than the movie does, describing his wife's corpse and like the things that they see. There's so much of both the book and the movie that are centered on these rats that are on the farm, and I think that the rats play such an important role because they just seem to keep multiplying and growing as this looming threat gets more and more intense. And I think the way the director utilizes that works really well for the movie. I think one of the big complaints I remember from when this movie was released, and even reading some comments now, was Thomas Jane's attempt at an accent in this movie. And it's not perfect by any means, but I don't find it distracting either. It doesn't really take me out of the movie when I'm watching it. I feel like he's going really hard on that thick southern drawl and trying to really create a persona. And some moments it's a little laughable. He gets very into it, and it doesn't necessarily work, but it's not so bad to where I feel like it's pulling me out of the movie. And I think the chemistry that he has with his son and the actors, both the actors' performances, are really great and parallel well to their personalities in the book. I will say the character of Hank in the book feels younger. I think he's described in the book as like 12 or 13 years old, really young. The way that the dialogue is portrayed, he calls him Papa, and he seems a little meeker in the book than he does in the movie. Which could just be the translation of the director. He seems a lot older in the movie, seems to be a little bit more strong-willed. He does have those moments where it's like, I'm still a kid, but something about his character in the movie feels a little bit more strong-willed, to where in the book he just feels incredibly helpless. And I thought that was an interesting shift, but it's close enough to where I feel like the overall punch that both the book and the movie are trying to convey still works really well. And it's an exercise in creating dread. And I think this isn't a straightforward horror movie or book by any means. It's all about the ramifications of committing a heinous act. And I think more than anything, it's less about jump scares or things popping out at you or ghosts or anything, because I don't even think that when his wife shows up later on that it's necessarily being haunted by a ghost. I think it's more of an allegory for being haunted by the thoughts of something horrible that you've done, and being haunted by the ramifications of your actions. And I think the symbolism there is really fantastic, and the way that the two intersect is really great. And I just loved both of these a lot. I think that they're really great. I love period pieces, so it's really awesome both to read that and to be immersed into this world. I think the period element really accentuates that atmosphere, and I just had a really fun time revisiting the movie and reading the book for the first time. And I'd recommend to both read and watch the film. I think it's really interesting to see how they translate translated it into film, and I think it worked really well. So have you seen or read 1922? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I think both the book and the film are excellent. I really love both, and I think they're both handled very well. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.